Hello, lovelies. Hello, family, and welcome to my channel. Today, I am doing another video. I wanted to talk about the origins of the Paleolithic studies. I did a video. I'm not sure if I'm going to make this part two of the American Aborigines or the Paleo-Indians, or I just might make this be one of its own. I'm still debating of whether or not to make this a part two to that particular video. But you may want to check it out. I did a video about the American Aborigines are the Paleo-Indians, and I just wanted to do a continuation, sort of a continuation on it, because I want to talk about the origins of the Paleolithic, and the reason why we as American Aborigines, for so long, the AKA African Americans, have not known about our history or our origin, is because everything has been brainwashed. I got this idea of looking up the definition of Paleolithic from Chief Colinago. I watched one of his videos, and he mentioned Paleolithic, and he don't like using that term at all to describe our ancient ancestors here in the Americas, because he feels like it was a way of brainwashing who we really are. He said he got that knowledge from his ancestors when he started tapping more into his spirituality and learning more who he is, and meditating and connecting back with his ancestors. And that's, when he started connecting more with nature and with the earth and with spirituality and Hawa, the Most High, he started to realize that. And I'm starting to have an awakening too, and as well. And I decided to look again about the origins of Paleolithic, because I was trying to understand why they called our ancient ancestors Paleolithic. And when I started researching, it's like they use this term globally, not just here in the Americas. They also use it globally to describe all ancient people. And as you learn more about our indigenous heritage and learn more about the melanated race globally, all over the earth, you start to realize more and more that all the ancient people, the original humans, were melanated. They were dark complexion people. They were melanated race of people. I don't like using the term black, but I like to say dark, copper colored people globally. They were all over. We were all over globally. And they used this term paleo to describe all the ancients. And I was just trying to understand why they use this term. So when I decided to look this up in the etymology dictionary, right here online, and Paleolithic is an adjective, but the study of paleo history is, it's just a derivative of that. And it says here, Paleolithic pertains to earlier Stone Age, opposed to Neolithic. And 1865, coined by John Lubbock, later Baron Avebury, and from Paleo, Greek litho, stone, ick. So I was just trying to understand why they use paleo. Let me see. I'm not sure this shows it. Let me see if I can go back. It broke it down a little more. I'm not sure you see it, but and so they pretty much broke it down and showed you how it was done. But Chief Colinago in his video mentioned Pale, P-A-L-E. I thought that was interesting, because when originally it was P-A-L-A-E, paleo, with palea, with the A, but they changed it back in the 1800s under John Lubbock. He changed the name from Neolithic and from Paleo to Paleo. Pale. Pale, if you look at the beginning, P-A-L-E means pale. That's at the very beginning of the word. And then you go over here. I looked up pale. It says early 14th century from Old French, pale, pale, light colored. From Latin, paleus, pale, paled, wand, colorless. From pallor, to be pale, grow pale, root roll, pale. So it's like they put pale in front of paleo right here to make pale. So in other words, they are making history pale, stone history, to make pale stone history. Stone, make pale stone, and then history. Logic is the study of history, to make pale. So they say pretty much use all these fancy terms in science to show what they're actually doing. They're trying to make the history pale, pretty much, to lighten it up, to graywash it, in other words, hijacking. And this is when it starts in the 1800s. When they start delving more into ancient history globally. And this is how they did. And the person who started, who was all involved in this is John Lubbock. And John Lubbock is connected to Darwin. So, and I'll show you how. Let's go over here. Let me see if I can find John Lubbock. It was an article here. I think is it. This is another review article. This is definitely it right here. I tried to put all the articles up so I won't have to try to look for it. But yeah, I believe this is it. This is out of the Royal Society Journal of History and Science. And see, John Lubbock is the one who created this term. See what I said? Originally it says Pala. And Pala is believe is a Latin term. Don't take my word for it. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research on that. But Paleo, it was originally saying Paleo, but then they decided to drop the A and put E there to put pales, which puts more emphasis in frequency. Like I said, frequencies are telling everybody the language is very important. It's a way of bringing energy into the universe and manifesting things into reality. That's why the Greys always want to have control over what is being written, what is out in the media. That's why it's a battle. And they know the importance of these frequencies, and that's why they always want to have their hands on it. And they always want to be in control of our narrative because they don't want us to bring that positive flow of energy back upon ourselves. And that's why we have to have more control over what is being said about us in these books and create our own, so we can bring more positive energy and frequencies back onto ourselves. And see, this is how they do it. Paleo, pale, to make pale of stone history. That's what it means, paleo. And if you drop the A, that's what it means. And this is what they did. And, he was back in the 1800s, late 1800s to be exact, during the early to late 1800s. So that was during the slave time and when they were oppressing the American Aborigines and stealing lands, from the indigenous people. And so he was the creator of the Paleo name. And this pretty much is an abstract. I'm going to put a link to this. I'm not going to go too much into detail because I have some more articles that I wanted to touch on. But I wanted to just stroll down to the part about the controversies right here in his research and his studies. He was controversial. Some of the scientists didn't believe in what he was saying, but this is what they did. They always started at 6,000 years, and pretty much that's when the Greys appeared on the earth. They're a new race of people. Nobody can really explain how they got here. I have my own theories, and I'll probably do a video eventually about my theories of, them all of a sudden appearing, only 6,000 years on this planet. Nobody can really understand where they came from. But here to say that, but it starts off here from the 1850s onward. It says Lubbock's two controversies: human antiquity and the three-stage system. And it says from 1850 onward, a growing acceptance among the scientific community that human antiquity was much older than 6,000 years or so suggests from Usher's readings of the books of Genesis can be observed. Although growing slowly from the intellectual foundation use of Leo's application of uniformitarianism to the geological records and thus the demonstration of deep times. This was bolstered in particular by the discovery of demonstrable human remains predating Homo sapiens in the Felshorfer Grot in Germany's Neanderthal Valley in 1856. The demonstration that humanly made stone tools were associated with the bones of distinct animals and the terraces of the Semani in April 1859 and the intellectual furrow that preceded and accompanied the publication of Darwin's On the Origin of Species and Means of Natural Selection in the same year. See, these people were working together, you guys. He worked alongside with Darwin, and he believed in a lot of the things that Darwin were practicing in his studies and research and scientific research. And so you can see this right here. And then it says here, uniform. See, this is when they started to try to uniform science, and everything was based on eugenics, pretty much. Eugenics. And so when they started going in and digging up stuff and researching a lot of the histories, they kept on getting American Aborigines and other melanated races. And they didn't like this. And then they started to want to start history at 6,000 when they got here. So they didn't want to go further back because all it's going to show is melanated race of people globally. And so what better way to hide it is to only start with their history and not acknowledge the people from the past that goes further back. And they did it by being uniform. And they decided to go all the way around. They first started in European history when studying Neanderthals and their history. But they decided to take this thing globally and have it where they only start off with studying only, a certain, only going back 6,000 years when they got here. And also by uniformly practicing eugenics globally, where everything is based solely on them, for them, by them, for themselves, and to exclude and not acknowledge the other groups of people, through brainwashing. And then it talks about how, and it says here that he was connected with Darwin, And it says during the 1860s, the foundation of Paleolithic archaeological research records were emerging in France, Britain, and Germany. Presently, for the first time, stratified documents of human behavior changed over the remote period of Pleistocene. During this decade, the French paleontologist Edward Lautart and Latet and the English banker Henry Christie excavated several caves and rock shelter sites in quarantine basins that still form the basic chronocultural scheme of Western European Middle and Upper Paleolithic. So, and then this just talks about what his earlier research was on Europeans, and and what they pretty much did was take what they learned from European history and based it solely on Caucasians, and that's when it started unifying it and taking it global into other studies. And that was what they were saying, a human antiquity, basing it solely on European history and making a global phenomena of it. pretty much. But I didn't really want to go into that. I just mainly wanted to share that part about uniformism. They tried to uniform the study of it, but when they did that, they tried to base it solely on eugenics. But let me go on and continue. I wanted to show even further right here who Mr. Lubbock is. Don't think he's a doctor. I'm not sure they would have mentioned that at the very beginning. This is him right here. I'm not sure if he's a doctor or not, but I think he studied biology. But this is him right here, John Lubbock. Well, let me move myself out the way. I want to just read over his brief bio. It says in 1834, he was born in 1834, and I guess died in 1913. English banker, politician, biologist, and archaeologist, was born to the son of Sir John William Lubbock, known as Sir John Lubbock, 4th Baronet from 1865 until 1900. He received the title Baron Avebury. Oh, okay. He was a polymath. He began his work life as a banker. So that's another name that he goes by. With his family company, served as member of the parliament for many years and was involved in entomology, botany, biology, archaeology, and ethnology. He became famous among general public in Britain and introduced the Act of Dates of Banks holidays. And I'm going to skip through that. In the academic sphere, he helped establish archaeology as a scientific discipline, coining the term paleo. See, he dropped the A. It was palea. He dropped the A to paleo to make pale stone history. Pretty much that's what it means. And Neolithic, and contributing to the preservation of Avebury site, as well as publishing books and articles in the topics and diverse wildflowers, his behavior in insects. And he also influenced the 19th century debate concerning evolutionary theory, having made friends with Charles Darwin at an young age. See, he's connected with Charles Darwin. And like I said, I was reading, ethnology, and I'm going to show you what ethnology means. Let's skip on over here. Ethnology is the science of characteristic, history, and customs of the race of mankind, 1832, and modeled after French or German, related to ethnologists, ethnological, ethnology. Okay, and so this is what, let's see if I can click on it. Will it take it down? And it just goes more into details right here. But this is what it is. And this is what he began, here in the Americas. I believe he came into the Americas. Let me see here. Let me go back to this. Let me try to make sure I'm getting the right article. I believe it's right here. Yeah. But he is the one that coined the term paleo. And I just wanted to share you all what it means. It means to make pale stone history, pretty much. And that's what it's pretty much doing, is trying to make pale the history and origins and stuff. And let's go down. I want to stroll down to his scientific, what he did during in the science community, what he did while he was alive. It says Lubbock took keen interest in evolutionary theory from a relative age. He was extensive correspondence with Charles Darwin. So he was connected with Charles Darwin. He lived nearby in Darwin, and with whom he was close friends. Okay. And I'm going to stroll down, skip through his talking about. He became one of the founding members of the elite club, and composed a gentleman to promote the theories of natural selection of academic liberalism. Let's draw down here. Understanding our history is very important. Understanding the origins of how things are created helps us put the pieces together and have a better understanding of what actually took place. so we can fix it. And it says here, in 1865, he published possibly the most influential archaeological textbook of the 19th century, Prehistoric Times, illustrated by ancient remains and the manners of the customs of modern savages. Whoa, this is so racist. You hear that? Let's read that again. This is the title. Prehistoric Times, illustrated by ancient remains and manners and customs of modern savages. See, this is what he thought about the indigenous people, the melanated race. It says this became standard archaeology, which is pretty much eugenics, text for the remainder of the century and seventh and final edition published in 1913. The book was based on his research visiting archaeological sites in Europe where he collected artifacts such as flint hand axes. His analysis of such stones led him to believe that the Stone Age was divided. He invented the term Palea from Greek and litho stone, literally meaning old age of stone, pretty much. But then he changed it to pale. Why did he put P-A-L-E? See, and then Neolithic, and then the old stone, respectively. His term continues to be used today. And then it says here, yeah, it's still used today. Lubbock, and that's where the gray washing started. Lubbock collected objects. He contacts of countries ranging from Africa to Australia to North America. Through studies of objects which turns such as boomerangs from the Australians and tribal weapons from Africa, he studied the lifestyles of various cultures with the aim of understanding prehistoric societies. Methods might not be acceptable today, such as armchair ethnography was not uncommon in his time. In those days, researchers assumed the study of contemporary primitive societies will reveal much of that was true about prehistoric societies. Yeah, and see, you can see they gray washing this. It's like they dampen the growth of his racism. His biasness is evident in his writings and what he believed in. And then they talk about his second book and everything. And I just pretty much want to show you that he was in North America and a lot of his beliefs and how paleo should be studied. And yeah, I don't trust that word and how it was formed by people who believe in pure eugenics and trying to keep this narrative going that the gray race is supreme. And it shows in a lot of the writings that he has done. But if y'all want to read more about this, you can. Read more about him if you want to. I don't care to read more about this guy. But I wanted to go to the article that talks about Darwin. Because, I want to show you all that there was a connection between Lubbock, John Lubbock, and Charles Darwin, that they had a strong relationship and a lot of the same mindsets. But I'm going to bring you over here, you guys, over to this other journal article. It's called the Eugenics Review. And I am sort of in the way, you guys. I'm sorry about that. Let me move over. And I'm going to put a link to this particular article right here. But I just wanted to share with you all about what he did here in the Americas and how it spread it. They wanted to unify archaeology by using the term paleo. And when they use the term paleo with eugenics, they spread this uniform way of gray washing all histories globally. And pretty much that's what they did, gray wash all of history to erase the indigenous people. And that's why we don't know much about our history. And a lot of these ancient remains have been taken by museums, by private interest group, by the rich elite, and it's scattered all over the world to the point where it's hard to even get back some of the ancient remains that were left here by our ancestors, you know. But it says here in 1862, while James Hunt was striving to reuse his fellow ethnologists to activities of society, it was being quietly invaded and a machinery captured by a small advance guard of Darwinists. Darwin's revelation had set a number of men searching for clues for man's past and history. In 1862, Huxley has given his inquiries an anthropological bent and was busy determining man's place in nature. John Lubbock was discovered amongst native people in early stages in the evolution of European society. See? And it says John Evans was demonstrating the existence of implements of gravels and terraces of Thames valleys, which must were to use of our predecessors long before days of the flood. I'm going to scroll it down. All of them came down to ethnological society at the time, and then it was natural that this advanced guard of evolutionary movement in need of the organization that should invade and annex the machine of ethnological society. See, this is when they were starting to want to start putting emphasis on the ethnological studies. You know, the uniforming and everything, and making it a part of eugenics and stuff. And it says they made Lubbock president. See, he's a prime eugenicist right here. He believed in it. He's president of the whole thing. And then it says Gosson's secretary set it out to investigate systematically the problems of man's origin and nature. The problem is they keep on finding people who are of color and they are melanated and they're not gray like they are. And they want to graywash it pretty much so it can fit their narrative of them being the supreme race that they think they are, which they're not. And it says Hunt was dissatisfied, broke away, and successfully founded the Anthropological Society. He carried with him this distinct society, a more enthusiastic push for emotional members, leaving behind the men who swayed to head rather than to heart. The men that decided to adopt practical, active measures went to Hunt. Wow. And it says those who desired to study, observe, and lay the basis of the sound knowledge of remained. Gosson stayed with his fellow Darwinism after the death of the Hunt in 1869, negotiating an opening between two rival societies. So, you know, they had the Anthropological Society and Ethnological, which pretty much is all those two societies pretty much has control and wrote the narrative for pretty much over centuries, for century, going on 2 years now. It was really a little over a year. But all of this took place in 1800s. It really didn't take that long. Haven't been that long, It really hasn't. But this is when eugenics and stuff, the gray washing and all this, it's part of what they've done. But I'm gonna put a link to this particular article write up in this from this journal article for you all to see. I was just trying to get to the origins of paleo and how it was coined and how it was created and developed and how it was gray washed. It was a uniform effort by scientists, by gray Caucasians, to keep the narrative going of what the origins are, and they try to cover it up, but it's coming to light. We are exposing them, and the truth is coming out as to exactly what took place. But let's go back over here. I had an article about Darwin. Now, this is a really interesting article because it exposed exactly what Darwin was doing and everything. He even wrote it and exposed himself in some of the writings that he'd done in the past as to his thoughts and thought processes of other racial groups during that time period. Besides Caucasians and everything, and they still had he along with others had this mindset that that people who are the original man, Caucasian, no, not the Caucasians, but the melanated race was inferior. And throughout a lot of their writings, they call them savages, less than human, even though they are 100% humans. They call them less than humans, which is ironic, and try to justify their irrational or illogical behaviors of graywashing a history that they don't have no rights to. But it says here the museum exhibit suppresses Darwin's real views of eugenics, race, and capitalism. And it's true. Every time you read a book, it's like, oh, he's this great scientist, this great researcher, and he did that and did that. But they don't never expose his true nature of what he was really all about, his true agenda. But this article here, which I'm glad they published, it's an older article, you guys. It was published December 1st, 2005, and was written by John G. West. And he went into detail as to why, exposing Darwin for his true color of eugenics and racism, pretty much. It says, while the news media lavished praise on the new Darwin exhibit at the American Museum of Natural History, no one seems to notice that the museum is presenting a thorough, sanitized portrait of Charles Darwin, completely suppressing Darwin's real views on such troubling issues such as eugenics and race. See? It's all covered up. Oh, and I forgot to mention that this article was published in Evolution News and Science Today. Okay, Evolution News. And this is the publication. I'm going to put a link to this article so you all can read it too as well and refer back to it. It says, according on the online version of the exhibit, far from being a social Darwinist, Mr. Darwin was supposed to have been a passionate egalitarian who would have been horrified by any application of his theories to social and political issues. The exhibit proclaims Darwin passionately opposed social injustice and oppression. He would have been dismayed to see the event of generations to come. His name attached to opposing ideologies from Marxism to bridal capitalism and the policies from ethnic cleansing to forced sterilization. Whether used to rationalize social injustice, racism, or eugenics, so-called social Darwinism theories are a gross misreading of the idea first described in the origins of species, and applied in modern biology, emphasis added. Okay? And it says in reality, Charles Darwin was an early booster of both eugenics and the application of his biological theory to issues of race and economics. Darwin's book, The Descent of Man, has an entire section devoted to the application of natural selection to civilized societies. Darwin's discussion opens with the following remarkable complaint, which was echoed again and again by later eugenicists. Okay, so this is what he really feels, you guys. And this is the truth. And this is what we should be looking at and be studying in our research of what he was really all about, which thoroughly discredit him on any of the things that he done. And research, especially when it applies to early man. Him and his colleagues, such as Lubbock, who created the term paleo as a way of speaking negative energy towards the stripping of our indigenous heritage and rights to this land. And our history, our wealth of historic artifacts and histories, that is a legacy that was passed on rightfully for us, but they stole it in trying to place themselves in somewhere that they have no place in and no part of, especially if they weren't here. But let's continue. It says here what Darwin says. It says, with savages, the weak in body or mind are soon eliminated, and those that survive commonly exhibit a vigorous state of health. We civilized men, on the other hand, do our utmost to check the process of elimination. We build asylums for the imbeciles, the maimed, and the sick. We institute poor laws, and our medical men exert their utmost skills to save the life of everyone in the last moment. This is the reason to believe that vaccinations has persevered thousands who, from weak institutions, will formerly have succumbed to smallpox. Thus, the weak members of civilized societies propagate their kind. No one has attended to breeding of domesticated animals without that this must highly injures to the race of man. It is surprising how soon to want of care or one wrongly directed leads to the degeneration of domestic race. But excepting in the case of man himself, hardly anyone is so ignorant as to allow his worst animals to breed. So he's pretty much calling people who are not Caucasians animals, pretty much. But, it's here you all can decipher for yourself. It's true that Darwin wasn't a champion of forced sterilization, but that's because the technology of sterilization wasn't developed until well after Darwin died. Darwin was certainly supportive of the early eugenics ideas promoted by his cousin Francis Galston, who ultimately coined the term eugenics. That's his cousin. Wow, a blood relative. And he favored eugenics restriction on marriage. And it says, moreover, Darwin used the biological theory to define capitalism. Florida State historian Richard Warhart was able to document how Darwin drew on natural selection to criticize the work of trade unions and corporative, and he even endorsed the book German biologist Ernst Haeckel that employed Darwin to refute socialism. And see, he's trying to take that's like comparing apples to oranges. He's trying to take capitalism, the grace, hoarding all natural resources and using nothing but deceit, lies and manipulation to support it. Because if it was natural selection, you wouldn't have to lie and deceit and create artificial things to make it happen when you just do it naturally. How about going into the woods and see who survives? When that made more logical sense without any help and without the gun, which Caucasians has used for centuries to take over and destroy. How about no technology and do it naturally? That's natural selection, not using technology. Technology is artificial. It's not natural. It's something that man created. So that's not natural selection, something totally different. If natural selection would be out in nature. But if you're cheating, it's not natural selection. It's cheating, pretty much. But anyway, it says here, finally, although Darwin opposed slavery, he firmly believed that the evolutionary process has created superior and inferior races. And that's a matter of opinion and speculation. It has nothing to do with facts. He maintained the descent of man that human intellectual development was the product of natural selection, and natural selection had produced significant difference in the mental faculties of men and distinct race. Wow, he is just full of himself, isn't he? In the same book, Darwin disparaged blacks. No, I'm not going to say blacks, bronze people. In the book, Darwin disparaged bronze people, the bronze, and observed that breaking evolutionary history between apes and humans fell between the Negro or Australian and the gorilla. It's funny, they're speaking about their own history. We're the 100% humans, and they're the ones that are closely related to the apes. Indeed, indicating that he considered the melanated race, the humans that were most ape-like. With nationality, they are the ones that's most ape-like. It's in their blood and DNA. It's been proven with the Neanderthal and the rhesus monkey. So everything was taught in reverse. Darwin also predicted that some future period, not very distant as a measure of centuries, the civilized race of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace throughout the world the savage race. And it says the racist cast of Darwin's thought is difficult to deny. Exactly. And then if he felt this way, then this should be on all the writings in the history books so everybody can see it. The truth should be told. You're not an angel. You're gray. Okay? Far from that. And spreading this gray virus train of thought throughout the planet. And that's part of the problem. This false narrative based on eugenics. And it says here, Darwin was undeniably a great figure in history of human civilization, and think that his works should be read at every literate American. No, it should not. His works should not be read, especially by American Aborigines. This is something that we should not even be listening to. We should learn from it, but it's not something we should encompass in our own research and day-to-day living. We should learn from it, though. Definitely learn. So we can make our future better for our future generations. It says, rather than honestly portraying the real Darwin, the museum was apparently decided to suppress the historic record and rewrite history in order to present Darwin as a figure who was completely disconnected from all problematic applications of the theories to politics and society. Exactly. If you're gonna publicize this, man, you need to publicize not just the positive side. You need to show it all, the negative as well. And if he has this slanted, biased view in his train of thought, then obviously it's in his research as well. So it's also going to be biased and flawed, severely and substantially. So if he had this type of view, why should we even listen to anything that he says? Because obviously if everything is based on eugenics and his personal narcissist, arrogant way of thinking, which is based on opinion and speculation, then what's to say if the rest of his work is even worth even reading? It's obviously biased and flawed, and it's not supported by science nor research. You can't support it through data. Everything's based on opinion and speculation. And it says here that this is hagiography, not history, pretty much. It's an example of what some would call Darwinism, fundamentalism, pretty much a way of thinking. Darwinism is such an iconic figure for so some of his latter-day boosters that they can't admit any fact that might somehow tarnish his reputation. That's the grey-washing. Everything that Greys do, they want to put on a pedestal, and his ideology they want to say is pure when it's not. It's gray, heavily flawed. It says, there is an interesting story here for someone who wants to pursue it. Why are Darwinists so insecure that they must rewrite history in order to portray Darwin as a secular saint? That's a good question. Excellent question. And I'm surprised this article did not get more likes. I don't like this one. This is excellent reason. I had to like that one. But anyway, this is an excellent article. I'm going to put a link to this article as well about Darwin. And so it sort of goes back to what I was saying. A lot of this stuff that was created, like the origins of paleo, has come from Lubbock. Lubbock was a strong supporter of Darwinism, and he had his same way of thinking, and he was all in the middle of the eugenics movement, recreating ethnology and archaeology, tainting with it and messing with it so it can slant in their favor, which is very unethical, extremely unethical. And a lot of the stuff that they did in the past is still streaming down forward now throughout the history books and throughout all the writings and the artifacts. So all of these are based on nothing but opinion and speculation. Nothing is factual. So it's based on opinion and factual and racist point of view. And like I said, it has no bearing in science as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't. Because, if it's going to be scientific and then be accurate, pinpoints, precision, you wouldn't have to use opinions and speculation. You use numbers. Actual numbers that have not been manipulated by humans, but actually shows the true picture and nature of what's taking place. But anyway, and that's pretty much what I wanted to show you, and how the Paleo-Indians, I showed you all this Scholarly Journal article from 1999, and I'm pretty sure it's some more current ones. I have to research that. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm going to do some more studies on that. And then this is the same thing, that the picture of the actual Paleo-Indians. And this is what they were finding. And that's why they're so upset and so adamant about doing this grey-washing, starting history based on what European history is, and unifying it and the eugenics approach, and to doing digs and research. So it's going to be tainted. If it's not based on actual facts and based on biased racist opinion, it's not going to be accurate. But I would love to see what you all think about this video, about the origins of the paleo, the term paleo, and what's your thoughts on it? Because personally, I believe that it means to make pale stone history, pretty much. And if you drop the A and he put the E, now that's all you see pretty much in a lot of the books is paleo, spelled that way, PAL, to make pale the stone history, pretty much. If y'all, I would love to see what you think and your opinions on this. And what do you think about Darwinism? What do you think about the scientists who created the actual term, and what is their hidden agenda? Do you think that was a way of speaking frequencies into the universe of grey-washing history? Do you think it's real? Please like this video, thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. And the chakra nesculuses are coming soon to the Purpose Healing Art store. And until next time, family, peace. Bye-bye.